Grand rising, beautiful,
Patty.
purpose-driven, abundant beings. You guys loved me having my sister here so much. You had so many questions. You got so many nuggets from the information that we shared that we have her on again, guys. We're going to let you all join in. While we're joining into the room, guys, Tracy Clark here, helping you manifest and monetize your calling. And while we're joining into this room right now, I just want you guys to check in, but not check in with us. I want you to check in with yourself. I just want you to give me one word how you're feeling today. How are you feeling on this? It's a bit of a gloomy Saturday here in Indiana. What about there, Ken?
Yeah, the same here.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. What would you say? One word. How you feeling today?
Maybe hopeful.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Hopeful. I would probably say in alignment or connected.
Okay.
Connected would be my word today,
Okay.
So
That's a good one.
absolutely. Barely connected. Guys, a little bit of behind the scenes while you're all joining on here today, guys. A little behind the scenes is something happened with our Wi-Fi that never happens. Our Wi-Fi is always clear and good to go and smooth, but somehow, for some reason, until exactly 1 minute before it was time to go on live,
Shut
our
down.
Wi-Fi. So something didn't want this message to come through, but we gotta let this message come through. Ain't that right, Ken?
Yeah, yes, yep. And we're gonna make it work. We made
We're
it
gonna
work.
make it work. Absolutely. So we actually went so long on the first live that we did. We went a little bit over time because we were trying to squeeze in a lot of points that some of which we didn't even get to. So last week we were going to be talking about payroll as well as team management. We didn't get to really hit in on that team management aspect of it as much as some of the questions and things like that came in as much as was needed. So today we're going to be focused in on team management, period. And how do you start to create, develop, and fund a team at all levels in your business growth? Whether you're just starting, whether you're in that middle level where you're like, I know I need a team, but I don't have a whole lot to go into payroll and things like that. Or if you just have a full budget and you're just ready to to gain a team that's creating win-wins and you're ready to pay them what they're worth as well. That's a great spot to be in as well. But no matter what spot you're in, there are solutions, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
No matter what spot you're in.
Tamara's joining. She said, peace, beauties. I can't wait to speak with you, Tamara. I think we have an appointment coming up here. She feels balanced today. I love that word. Balance.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. Balance. Hubby came in as well. Hello. What's your one word? How are you feeling today? That's a team, guys. That's a team that support. You know what I mean? And, that's something that when you talk about team management, it goes into anybody that you're connected to, whether that's personal relationships, business relationships, friendships. All of those are teams, so to speak. Correct? Because you're connected. If you're a family, you're running your household together. You have kiddos, you have schoolwork, you have tasks that have to do. You want to make sure those tasks are split equally. You want to make sure people feel valued and feel appreciated. These are all the same types of things you want to create in a work environment, right?
Yes. I agree.
So let's see. Hi, Nelson. How are you doing today? Good to see you as well. Good to see a lot of my YouTube family here. All right. And we're going to go ahead and share in both Facebook groups, guys, and we are going to dive in. We're going to try not to be on here too long, but we definitely want to make sure that you guys have a clear map as to what do you need to do in each of these aspects to build a team, because like we were kind of saying a little bit in our last video, team building is really how you grow and expand. You can only do so much solo. You know what I mean? So that team building part is how you scale. So if you want to start, for instance, if you have, I know a couple of people who do like craft type work. Their work is a craft, and they're looking into getting someone onto the team because they can only build so many crafts, or they can only sew so much with just one person. So let's dig right into this. Let's dig into that first phase. So that first phase is you have a tight budget right now. Now, have you started a business with a tight budget before? I know I have because I've started several businesses. Probably 70% of the businesses I've started have been on a shoestring budget. So I definitely know, how that is, and know the difference negatives and the different challenges that you have when starting on a low budget. The one tip that I would give, or the main tips I would give on low budget, is number one, before you go to transition to managing a team well, make sure you're managing your time best. Make sure you're actually managing your own personal time, because what have you guys ever went into a restaurant or into a store or something like that, and you ever had a bad experience and had the manager come over and their energy was exactly the same as their staff?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a drop down. It's a drop down of cultures and things like that. So if you don't have a team, number one thing is, okay, how can I really manage my time? Well, I don't have a team right now. What would I have a team doing? What are the list of things that I need a team for?
Yes.
And the second step that I would give, and I'll let you, if you have some tips as well to give on this stage, you can add those as well. But the second thing I would do is look at systems, apps, things like that. That's a low budget way to build a team. I was highly impressed with when I finally started using Calendly. Most of you guys know what that is, because that's how I set up my calls and things like that. That's like a low budget assistant in a way. Because what would an assistant do that you would be paying by the hour? They may call, they may set up an appointment, look at your calendar, all of those things. If there's an app or something like that that can do it, you can start there and start by really maximizing technology.
Yes.
Any other tips for lower budget and trying to build that team?
I think I agree with you 100%. I would just say starting with a business proposal, speaking firsthand, going through actually establishing a building or a business, right now, I would probably say, starting with a business proposal, writing down, like you said, specifically what it is that your business does. Where would you even need a team? Writing information on what that team member would be doing for the business step by step, because most businesses do that. They have the job description for each employee. They have a business plan. So if you have a low budget, which most small businesses do, including, myself when I first started, that's okay, because it's all about, like you said, balancing and using the resources that you have. Because if you have whether you have a large budget or a small budget, if you're not using your resources and you're not, taking the proper steps for your business, it really won't make a difference.
Absolutely.
Whether the budget is big or small.
I love that. And I love what you're saying. Work with what you have. Work with what you have. Sometimes we're so focused on what we don't have and kind of using it as an excuse. Well, like, once I get my team, or once I get this will be good. Well, stay in the step you're in is a big quote that one of my coaches always says: stay in the step you're in and focus on that, and focus on really maximizing that. As we're going to talk about in the phase 2 a little bit, we'll talk about what to do once you're kind of getting in a little bit of funds. But for now, you want to make sure that you're preparing for that next phase. You're preparing for that next, those team members to come in. If you are, whether you're a business or a nonprofit, but specifically for nonprofits, you can hire on interns and or volunteers. There are people who want to donate their time to nonprofits. So that's another option as well. You also want to think about win-wins outside of financially. Maybe there's somebody that this would be a good position for what they want to do in the future. Maybe they're in school right now for nonprofit development or for payroll or something like that. And they can come in and get that valuable lesson of learning a system while they are also learning in school and also developing their career. Yeah. So you just want to kind of think outside of the box. Don't get frozen because of whatever stage you're in and you're not on that next stage. Okay, there's nothing I could do. Make sure you're doing everything that you could possibly do in this stage. Now let's talk about moving on to that stage 2, where you're getting a little bit coming in. This is kind of the stage most of nonprofits are in, where they really do need some team members. They need some people to come in, but they're like, I don't know how this is going to work with payment. I'm just getting enough now to know that, okay, I'm good, and finally, a lot of people are just now putting themselves on payroll and things like that, but it's starting to come into a point where maybe they're a bit overwhelmed. So maybe they could use a little help, but they don't know if they want to take on a full staff member. What would you say in this phase 2, when they're growing your business phase, is some options for them?
That is when you would probably start digging, in towards your budget and like I was saying, it's so important to write down, step by step, what's going on with your business because it keeps you aligned.
Mm-hmm.
I would utilize, with technology, there's so much information as far as your personal budget as well because they tie kind of one and the same. So I would just utilize the
Mm-hmm.
resources that are available with technology and Google. I Google everything, not everything,
That's
but
right. That's
um,
right.
just utilizing the resources that you have available and not just looking on the surface, diving a little bit, deeper. So it's
Mm-hmm.
I try to spend at least an hour, a day broadening my knowledge, trying to find out more information on my craft or getting a mentor that or a business that may be doing some of the same steps that you are doing. So
Mm-hmm.
that helps a lot
That
because
definitely helps.
because then you'll be able to see maybe some of the best practices that they have done to get over that hump because I feel like every business has been on that lower level and then taking that stair step up. So utilizing the business that you may want to be in, maybe like a business if you're doing hair, looking at a salon that's that's had hairstylists for years and
Mm-hmm.
seeing what some of their best practices, even reaching out to some of those businesses. Some businesses are so willing to give free information. you know
Absolutely. And there's
yeah.
tons of information, like you said, online as well. If you can't necessarily afford that next level, you can always look online at some of the free things on YouTube. You literally can almost learn anything right now. It's like we have all this information back in the, if you wanted to study something prior to this year of technology, or not year, but decade of data and technology and information, you have to go to the library, try to study it out, hope they have the book. We
Mhm.
can remember those times. You know what I
Oh, I
mean? You don't
remember the
have to do,
library days.
yeah, go get your library card. I'm studying gardening, get my
We
bachelor's,
still like going. Brooke loves going to the
go to the
library.
library still. Yeah, but that was your only
Yes.
option. Now
Yes.
it's everything at your fingertips. Is there something you're confused about? Go ahead. You could just pop it into Google, pop it into YouTube right now. Another thing a lot of people had questions about from last time when you were on was all of those unique type of payroll setups. That going from, it doesn't mean your first payroll, personal payroll, doesn't necessarily have to be a full-time employee or even a regular employee. They may be just contracted out doing something once a month, or even seasonal. There's all different types, and you were kind of just describing some of your clients that you've worked with in the past, and how there's no cookie cutter. You can start with whatever is needed the most. If someone can just do, you might just need a day a week for
Exactly.
someone to knock out a list, and you have their list ready, and they come in a day a week, to do
Exactly.
some
Yeah.
personal assistant work for you. But
Yeah, or then that's why that business proposal and that the employee description is so important because that gives you a visual of where you can delegate because you may want to just pay someone quarterly. You may delegate one specific job. I would start with maybe delegating one specific job, not necessarily a entire employee. Delegate,
Mhm.
maybe if you need someone to do a computer work, or you need someone physically there to cut some material, or you need someone to do something specific. I would start by delegating a specific
Yes.
task or job and maybe paying quarterly or when that task needs to be done, and opposed to having to feel obligated to hire an employee. And if you feel you may not be able to, may not be able to afford a full-time employee, I would start with delegating certain tasks that you feel someone else may be able to do for you.
Just
Yeah.
starting with those micro tasks, like, okay, let me see, I'll go ahead. It doesn't have to be, like you said, kind of full time. And that's exactly how we started.
Yep.
Not to mention, you can also look into freelancers as well. I would consider myself a freelancer as well as you, Candice. You would be considered a freelancer, meaning you have multiple clients. And so in those cases, there's a lot of times where they have certain packages for group clients or packages for, you know what I mean? Because they're not dedicating all their time to your company, they have majority of freelancers have some lower ticket items that they can do as well. You talked about last time, like for accounting and things like that, they have single sessions. That doesn't mean you have an accountant full
Yes.
time, 40 hours on your staff. You know, there's so much contract work and so much freelance work that's going on. That's probably increased, doubled in this last year, even just alone. And so just thinking about those second options as well. Nelson said, great point there. Absolutely. And Tamara said, love that. Finding a great mentor is beneficial for growth and inspiration.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Tamara. And one thing that I'll say about that as well is if you can have that mentor and they can actually be your coach and things like that, and you guys can do sessions, that's great. But in some cases, it might be somebody that you start following. It might be somebody who's just giving some good, there's a couple of people that I follow as far as coaches and things like that are doing things maybe in a different field, or maybe for me personally, because I'm in front of a camera just like this and interviewing someone pretty much 90% of the time when I'm marketing, this is what I watch. So that
Yeah.
I can watch people interacting, so I can watch how they, even just like the reel. I love watching the reel because it's
Hmm.
four ladies, or is it three now? Yeah, it's still four ladies.
I
It's
don't know.
four ladies who, no shade. No, but it's four because they have the new one. So watching something like that, because they're just ladies who are speaking and who are having a conversation, and that's what I'm typically doing as well. So whatever you're going to be doing in your nonprofit, finding someone that's doing a version of that and starting to take that in on your downtime. So sometimes that part right in the middle, when you're right on that cusp of growth, that's the part that you affect the most.
Yes.
That's the part that how you think about it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I was just agreeing with you. Your
Mhm.
daily actions and stuff like that, it does. That's when it's like you said, your personal development and your responsibility, what you're actually doing. I agree with you 100%. And then I was just going to also say that one thing that really helped for me is just ciphering out my social media. All like,
Hmm.
because a lot of times you'll miss important business information or information that you may need because it's so much loud noise going on. It's so many people complaining or people talking about nonsense. In my opinion, sometimes, not necessarily all the time, but I've blocked so many people and blocked so many things that's not uplifting or
Mhm.
bringing knowledge, that it's helped a lot. Social media is so beneficial for knowledge if you're looking at the right information. So I've ciphered out my social media for both my personal and my business to where I'm only, down my timeline, I only see positivity.
That's
I only
good.
see business information or key nuggets or different stuff like that. Because that makes a difference, to me, most definitely.
That's a good little side nugget right there. That is a good point in the side nugget, because
It
one thing
helps.
that I like to do with social media, they call that your feed. So that's what you're feeding. So just think of whatever you're looking at. Not to mention, another thing I like to note for people who are not deep into the business world, where they have actually done marketing before and know about the targeting software and things like that Facebook and things like that has, which can all be used for good or it can be used for bad, guys. But at least having that knowledge and knowing how things work is going to be beneficial to you. Every time you're viewing anything, your views are being paid for. So just by taking it in and watching something, you're contributing to something. That process is being paid for. That's how majority of products and services that are online based or even offline based now, that's how they work and that's how they're funded. So whatever you're looking at, if you look at it for a long time, they're recording that data because they just want to know. And this is the job. The job is simple. The job is to give you more of what you're feeding. So so they're like, oh, okay, good. She liked that. She watching that. She watching this. She watching that. So she wants more of that.
Right.
So once you understand that, it's so easy to change it, to shift
Hmm.
it. Like whatever I'm looking at, whoever I'm supporting, how is this helping me? How is this? You know what? There's a million things you could do. You could just mute. You can unfollow. You can unfriend. Whatever you want to do. But distractions is a huge piece in this.
Hmm.
Distractions is a huge piece in this. In this day and age, most people are constantly being distracted. Honestly, that's mostly what I'm telling my team about. Engage, be exactly where you are. I remember there was a motto. Do you remember that motto from one of the other companies you were working at? Because I always think about that to this day. I know the meaning, but I don't remember the motto.
I remember what you're talking about. It was more so being present. Like, I know it was like being present in the moment, kind of a thing where you're just focusing on what you're actually doing right at that particular time.
If you're home, be home. If you're at work, be at work. If you're
Yes.
in a, just that's the superpower right there, being 100% there, being 100% present, so that you can really be making the right decisions. Because a lot of times most of us are kind of always distracted to the point where we're uncomfortable not being distracted. Let me say that again, to the point where we're uncomfortable not being distracted. There was a period of time in my life where it kind of always had to be a TV on. It
Me
always
too.
had to be
I was going to say
some
that
type
too. You almost
I had
feel
to
like
hear some
you
type
missed something.
yeah, because it's almost, I think, I personally feel like that's like kind of a symptom of coming from a traumatic past and things like that. Because you're so used to the chaos that you're just like, I gotta hear something, I gotta, you know what I mean? It's almost uncomfortable when you
To
start to
be in
quiet
your
things
own
down a little.
thoughts.
To be
Yeah.
in your own thoughts. But the more you're in your own thoughts, that's where that growth happens. That's where you can
Yes.
self-reflect. That's when you're inspired. That's when you get ideas and things like that. And so knowing how to deal with distractions, that's important in any type of goal that you're going to try to accomplish.
Yes.
You have to know how to deal with distractions. You know what I do when I go on social media? If I'm going on there, for number one, I go on social media intentionally. So what does that mean? That means that I'm on here because I want to specifically connect to and check in on this person who's inspirational to me. Earth Mama Medicine is somebody I follow because she does a lot of herbal remedies and things like that. She's also a vegan, so she does some recipes. We watch a lot of recipes in general, and then coaching like this, other coaches like this. So I'll go on to get inspiration from the people that I know. Number one, I trust them with my time of what I'm looking at on their page. What does that mean? They're not going to put no crap on there that was a waste of time or didn't mean nothing. You know what I mean? I know I'm going to get value, and then step two, I make sure that I give value. Whenever I'm coming on and getting value, I turn around and I give value in that same session. So that way you're just not hogging all this stuff. Sometimes you are getting great stuff, but it's so much great stuff out there. Has that ever been a distraction to you? Have you ever
Good information?
Too much good information
Yes,
sometimes.
honestly, yes. And that's when I say I gotta, it's time to get off.
Yeah,
Sometimes
3 hours looking at time management.
sometimes, social media in itself, in my opinion, can be a distraction. And that's the time you probably just need to, like the television. I used to watch TV every day, like you were saying, but I don't watch it anymore. Like, I was trying to find a show yesterday or the other day, and I'm like, what? I forgot what channel. You know what I'm saying? I was looking for, but sometimes you have to. I think you need to know when it's time for you to just clear your mind from everything. Even sometimes even too much. Good information. You can be overwhelmed. Your brain can be overwhelmed. Like, okay, that's why I was saying that I try to do at least an hour a day, building my knowledge on my craft. And that's it. Or if I get more, that's great. But sometimes, too much information can,
Because now you
be a
just have
bad
all
thing.
the absolutely, because more than likely, if you're getting in some knowledge, again, working on that breathe in, breathe out method, even when it comes to knowledge, if you're getting something in that's useful and it inspired you to do some activities, or maybe you heard somebody talk about time management and you're like, you know what, I need to do that. I need to redo my schedule. I need to do this and do that. Go ahead and take care of those tasks before you start getting in some other inspirational stuff, because then you become overwhelmed. You feel like I have all this long list of things that I want to do and I'm getting too many assignments in before I can even get them complete. And then as soon as you get overwhelmed, I know for me, I don't know if it's the same thing for you, but if I feel overwhelmed, I immediately freeze.
Shut down.
I just shut down. It's total opposite. Yes. Why do we do that?
I don't know exactly, because it's just you're overwhelming yourself. And then me and you were talking on a personal level about how important it is to start your day off with positive affirmations and to clear your mind. I know Tracy, and I want to get into it a lot. Tracy does a lot of meditation. She has like a whole little corner of her room that's like a meditation room. But I think that's so important because especially maybe in the morning time, because you're clearing out all that negative energy that you may have had, or if you did, you're clearing out all that old energy to bring in a new day, to have a grand rising, to start your
Mm-hmm.
day off, fresh and new, so you can really benefit from all the beautiful things that each day brings.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. One of the things that I do in there is gratitude. Sometimes, and another thing that I did for a long time, I don't do it as much now, but it's nothing that never stops. I just do it more sometimes and a little less. And now I've reminded myself I'll just start doing this some more. But I always do a mental gratitude list. Just, grateful for living in a house, grateful for being in the position that I'm in right now, especially during a pandemic, grateful for the family that I have around me, grateful for food. You know what I mean? This is just whatever comes to you, just taking time to be grateful for those things. I took it a step further when I was really transitioning as far as meditative and spiritually, and I would write it down. I would add it. You guys heard me talk about Trello all the time. It's a big old basically workspace for me to build anything. I
Yeah.
build everything properly in Trello, and it's
Oh,
free.
it's excellent.
TRELLO. And
Yes.
yeah, grateful, organized, communicate, and team management. Again, tools that help manage your team as well. And so one thing I did for a long time was I would write every day. I would write down just little things that just didn't have to happen. It could be from the smallest thing. It can be an act of kindness or something like that. It could be financially, but just something that didn't have to happen that happened. I would add it to that list, and then I would go in regularly and just review it. Because when bad stuff happens in a day, we were talking about this the other day as well. That sometimes great things will happen, positive things, but for some reason, no matter the value of the negative thing, that always gets the most attention. Like, oh my goodness, I have 5 wonderful things. This call happened, these sales, that, this and that. This one person that, I missed the call on because that's what happened. You know,
Uh-huh.
that's what happened. I don't know what happened that day. It was just some things went off. But you just focus in on that, even though other great, and you have to train yourself. That's what I do in meditation is train myself to look at, give attention, give beat. We have this thing when it comes to sales and connections and clients wins and things like that, that me and my husband always pause. And y'all want to know what we say? We
What?
say, sorry, we say ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Okay.
Just a way that's been a little ongoing joke that we say whenever, just a note to say thank you, gratitude, pause for this moment. Don't get so used to things happening that you forget to pause and show that time of gratitude.
Yeah.
Another important thing is everything starts off mentally. So when you stop your day at the beginning, and maybe we'll do another video on this and we'll pick back up on our subject in a second here, but when you start your day with that clarity and with that gratitude and connected in meditation and things like that, you are affirming the fact that everything begins mentally. So no matter what happens today, no matter how, there's a quote that says, if you're too busy to meditate, if you can meditate for 1 hour, if you're too busy to meditate for 2 hours. Meaning that's what you actually need
It's
to
time to clear out.
that
Mm-hmm.
clarity. Absolutely. Gayla said, Facebook networking and Upwork is a great way for find freelancers as well. Fiverr too. I don't know. Yeah, Fiverr is something we use. We're on Fiverr. That's where all of our reviews are. That's another good point, good way to steer us back into here. A good place to find freelancers of all price brackets. You can find someone to do a website on Fiverr from, I would probably say $50 on up to, just whatever price bracket you're in. Don't get stuck with, I need
Gayla
more.
does excellent websites as well.
Yes, Gayla, that's the other sister. We got to have you on, have the three
Yes.
sisters on one day, maybe for the holiday, guys, because we're hoping that we'll be able to
Oh,
be
that
together.
would be
So
nice.
that would be nice. Absolutely. Nelson said positivity is important. Yes, it
Yes, it
is.
is.
Absolutely. That positivity is absolutely important. Not to mention, what did we talk about when it comes to team building? We talked about you are, as the leader, as the founder, you're the core. So the team you're building around you is simply a reflection of that. So some of you maybe haven't built your team yet because you haven't properly been able to manage your own time, your own distractions, you may not be fully ready for that leadership position. So I would ask you to ask yourself, I really want to attract this team. I know I need this team. What's some things I can start to do to prepare for them? Do I have a list ready? Do I have a board in Trello? Will they know what to do? You know what I mean? Do
Yeah.
I know enough about the task that I'm assigning to them to give them clear orders? And if not, Do I
Yeah.
need to have a specialist come on or something? Maybe I
Yeah.
need to have a market specialist come on so I can understand it, so I can then assign somebody else to some of these tasks. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yep. Or even steps that you make in your personal, like you were saying, that is so important. Like even as far as, if you're organized in your personal um time or your personal space, that's going to be a direct reflection of your business. So like you were saying, seeing, where I can get more organized in the business and preparing in the business sense, but also in your personal, because they're one and the same. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you're all over the place, you don't have time here for this or that, or you're unbalanced, in certain places, it's going to reflect directly into your business. So me, I had to check myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, what can I do personally that will help me, to develop my business better. And that's when I realized, like I said, that's when I realized they're one and the same. You can't be all unorganized all over the place in your personal and then expect, to have your business fully organized and fully set.
That's a
And
good point.
yeah.
That's a really good point. So within, so without is one point that was one. I don't know if I'm saying it the way that I heard it, but which just meant like even your house. There's a lot of life coaches that will say like, take a weekend and organize your house. You think like that don't have nothing to do with you know what I mean? But even how your house is
Yes.
organized, how your schedule is organized with your children, all of those different things play a role into how you're organized because a lot of times they bleed into it. If it's not
Mhm.
organized, then you'll be in the middle of work or in the middle of doing something and something else will be distracting you and you'll
Anything
be
can
thinking
happen.
about that, or anything will happen, yeah, if you don't have it properly planned.
Hmm.
I tell you what, that's one of my main reasons for always going into each day at least individually. I know a lot of people plan super days in the head, they planning months in the head, all that stuff. My goal is when I get to each individual day, making sure that I have a clear understanding of everything that needs to get done that day and in what time. What time is that item getting done? And then here's the third tip, make it even better, is I actually then sit and say, okay, do I feel connected to? Do I feel aligned with this schedule today? Or is there something that needs to get moved around all the way in the beginning? You know what I mean? Is this overwhelming? Do I need to just go ahead and move this or change this around or something like that? Because the goal is to be present for all those things. So if it's so many things that you're already feeling overwhelmed, then more than likely you're not going to be 100% there. So
Yeah.
just making sure, like you said, that you do manage your time well first before you start. As building a team, what you're doing is you're managing other people's time.
Hmm.
You're giving them things to do there, so you want to make sure that the root and that foundation is there.
And
Let's see. Nelson said yes. You have to be grateful.
yes,
That's my
yes,
favorite
you do.
word.
Oh, grateful for everything you
Yeah.
have. Yes. And then I was gonna say, that it's important to balance out your time when it comes to personal and business, because I know that sometimes um it's hard to say, okay, I'm done with work for today. If I have work to do, and then I'm going to continue doing it until it's done. You know what I'm saying? But I've had to really take out the time, because that's what most businesses do, 9 to 5, Monday through
Mm-hmm.
Friday, and opposed to
Mm-hmm.
working the whole weekend, because then you can't, your thought process is not, in order, because you're thinking about your
Absolutely.
business from day, dusk to dawn. So it's also about managing your time and setting specific hours for your business to operate, and then you being able to disconnect after
That's
that
important.
time. Yeah,
That
it
is
is.
so important because you have to get that recharge. So if
Uh-huh.
you feel like you worked a super long, then if you work till 7 o'clock, I've done that before, and I've worked till really late
You
before. But of
have.
course, like you said, I'm trying my best to kind of just have those cutoff times as well. Because if you go over, what are you going to have for the next day? How are
Hmm.
you going to be recharged for the next day? Now, what did you take away from? That's the
Hmm.
biggest question. Because you went over, what were the things that you're supposed to be? Is it your family? Is it your organizing your house? Is it even just getting your peace back and getting yourself mentally together? And ultimately, faith wise, you have to believe that whatever you're doing with your time, that's why you look at it in the morning and make sure it's aligned and you're feeling good about it. Because whatever you're doing, if you're giving your all during that time, then After that, it's like, okay, I gave my all during this time. This is what got done. And then I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to give my all during this time as well. Because if
Yeah.
you're adding value, which I hope all of you are, if you're adding value, the appetite will never go away. There are people message us 24 hours a day, middle of the night, whatever time. They could be watching a video and messaging. There was a point in time when I first started, I was so excited that I was nervous. I was like, oh, I got to respond back, hurry up and respond back immediately. But there was a point in time where I literally, probably for 2 years of my life, was a ticking notification. That's all I saw. Notification. Even when we was on vacation, do you remember that time a little bit? Like I'll be there, like, oh, hold on, I gotta finish this up. I gotta get
I
this
got a
or
client. I have
whatever.
a meeting with a client. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a meeting with a client. Hold on, Thanksgiving. Hold on, just 1 second. And so you have to realize starting. I would definitely not suggest that. I learned the hard way, and it took just me being
Yes.
exhausted and tired to finally say, you know what? I'll do a video on this, guys. You can let me know if there's something that you want to see. I actually put my phone on vibrate for 2 years. This is my business line. I talk a lot about delegation, outsourcing, working smarter, not harder. So I've done a video before on the lines I have set up and how I kind of organize tasks and things like that, organize costs. But my business line was on vibrate for 2 years and it's still on vibrate. And what I do is I go in there during business hours and I go through the things and I go over, and then afterwards and I'm like, okay, and I'll go back in there during business hours because there was a point in time where it was always on, and so you just have to figure out what can you do to also be the best payroll support, nonprofit support. If you're wore out and you're tired, how are you going to be the best for your company and your clients,
Yeah.
and how are you going to coach them? So that's
Exactly.
a
Because
really
I was
good
going
point,
to
having
say,
those cutoff times.
yes, yes, I agree. And then I was going to say that exactly. So the time that you are working, since you have that dedicated time, that's when it's time to be present for your clients, and that's when you can give your clients 100% and the time they deserve.
Exactly.
So you're not your
Absolutely.
clients deserve 100%. You don't want to be halfway like, oh, what you talking, just
Right.
saying
I'm
hey this.
tired.
So you want to be able to you want to be able to give, their clients the time they deserve as well. So balance
That's it.
is very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're always coaching. I call everyone coaches. I know you're payroll services, but that's the same thing. Like you've number one, you've worked in payroll for over 10 years, but you also have your own business. So some people who are just starting, it doesn't matter if someone has had their own business for 6 months, a year, or 5 years. You can easily start helping people that are a little bit under where you came from. You know what I mean? And start coaching them. So you're showing them as well when you show up during business hours and you don't overwork and things like that. You're also kind of training the people around you to be able to operate in their best energy as well and be dedicated to their family when it's time to be dedicated to their family and be off when they're off. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's a tough thing, guys. When you finally do find something sometimes that you love or that you're excited about, sometimes you would just keep going, keep going. You have that momentum and you just want to go, go, go. But I can definitely say that taking that pause and making sure you balance is important. That's what I think that was somebody's word of the day, was balance. So I need to have them come on and talk about that a little
Yes.
bit. Yes. Let's see here. The secret to success. Hey, Minnow, the secret to success is found in your daily routine. Yes, that is something that she says very often and is absolutely true. Let's get into this last and final phase, the phase everybody wants to get to, where they have enough to support a good payroll. They're ready to get this big team going. At that point in time, my biggest suggestion that I personally would give is create win-wins. When you can take care of find out. I like to connect with my team also and kind of have an idea as to what their goals are or what they're trying to do right now. Is this something that they're really passionate about? Is
Mhm.
this something that they really enjoy? If not, what is? What phase are they on? Is this a transition point? There's nothing negative about that. If that is the case and this is a transition for them, what type of atmosphere can you create to make sure that they get the things that are going to make them win or that they're going to be able to bring on to their next business and things like that? And also, this is the important part for me and for a lot of people, make sure that you're winning as well. Sometimes for nonprofit founders and things like that, it can be flip flop, where they'll make sure that they have a good situation for someone, but it's really not the best positive situation for them. And it's so important to have that balanced. Not to mention that creates a trusting atmosphere, in my opinion. If
Yes.
someone is trying to tell me, you should be able to tell me how you winning from this. Okay, how you winning? Oh, I'm paying you once a month. Okay, you know what I mean. I want to know that because number one, it's important for me to have reciprocal relationships. I don't want to have a relationship where I'm draining and pulling from someone, but
Mhm.
they're not winning as well. Number two, it never passes the stink test for me. When
Yeah.
someone is trying to say that you're just going to do all this and I'm not going to or you're going to be winning in all these ways, and I just don't want nothing. I don't want to win at all.
Mm-hmm.
We almost know nothing in life is free. You know what I mean? There's something there. There's a way that they're going to win. If you do get a free coupon, which I love to get in the mail, and they tell you you can spend $10. That's my favorite one with no limit. That's like cash. And you go in the store, I guarantee you they had a win in their mind, which is the items you coming out of there with that was 50, 60,
Yes,
$70 for this
exactly.
$10. But it was a win-win.
Mhm.
I got the $10. They got their sale, and when you know that there's a person that I follow on if you guys have ever heard of what is it called? Mind Valley. Mind Valley. If you haven't heard of them, Google them. They have a lot of YouTube videos. They do a whole lot, a ton of free stuff, give out tons of value. They had someone on there in money management, and one thing he talked about was arigato in, arigato out. It's really simple. And what it just simply means is thankful, gratitude. Gratitude not only when it comes in, but gratitude for whatever is coming out as well. When you're spending on stuff, when you're paying people what they're worth, when you're, I had to check my budget queen mentality as far as always trying to get a deal. For a long time, I'll be like, oh, okay, well, what can you give me off? Well, what can you, always looking for now? Instead, I had to shift that because it's like, why do you always go? And I think that's something that my grandma was like, always ask. If you don't ask for a discount, you don't ever know. You know what I mean? So it
It
just
sounds
started
like
it.
it.
And I was like, all right, but that's not always something that you want to do. The first thing you want to do is your due diligence of seeing what the value is. For instance, let's talk about payroll. Look into payroll and see what do people normally charge, what is normally, what's going on right now before you even find out, if you're talking to kids or talking to someone, before you find out their prices, so that before you immediately ask for a discount, you know already what the value is and what the going rate is, and so you already know what they're giving. So it might be a case, which has happened to me, where it was already a deeply discounted item, but I didn't even know that. All I said was, first thing I'm gonna say is ask for a discount. But it was already something that was like 50% off or something like that. So do your due diligence with that, guys. That was way off topic, but maybe that was for somebody as well.
Yes.
But when you get into the win portions, you have to remember that now you have to be able to put into to be able to sow into other people, but you still need to make sure that you're being a good steward and you're putting in the right places, and you're paying value for paying what something is worth.
I
You know what
agree.
I mean? Sometimes we don't want to pay for what it's worth. We want to get how can we not pay exactly for what it's worth? But when you pay for what something is worth, number one, you're teaching yourself how to make sure that you have gratitude for what's given to you, because
Yeah.
hopefully you're getting some value. What
Yes.
would you say in that spot? That's the spot everybody wants to be in. Once you really have those funds, and you've worked with those clients before, I'm sure that wasn't a concern for them. Making payroll wasn't a concern for them. Is there any tips you would give at that point?
Um, the first tip I would say is finding the which sometimes is hard. It's hard for me. I have to reiterate it to myself daily, but finding a blessing in those mistakes that you're making, because it's all
Hmm.
building your knowledge. So
Hmm.
anything that you're doing, or any knowledge that you're getting, or like I said, any mistakes that you're making, it's all building your knowledge, and building you up and building your business up. The next thing I would say is that is the time that it's really important to have a employee description of each of the different areas in your business, because then you can decide whether, hey, I may not be able to hire a family member or someone that I know personally to do this job. I may have to go to a search engine, or I may have to go a different way and find someone, you know, I don't know, you know, maybe because eventually I want to bring an accountant on board. You know, that would be
Mhm.
great. You know what I'm saying? If I knew accountant personally or directly, there are accountants that I've worked with in the past, but that, you
Mhm.
know, that I could possibly think of. But sometimes it's stepping outside of, you know, your immediate surroundings, and you may have to find someone different. You know, it's just knowing where your business is and exactly what is needed for your business, you know, as you go from one step to the next, to the next, to the
That's a
next.
good point. That's a really good point because sometimes we try to put around peg into a square hole. We try to put people in a position. Sometimes we even try to put ourselves in a position. I mean, they say that the greatest day of your life is being born, and the next greatest day is finding out why. So a lot of times we're still trying to figure out what our giftings are and what we're meant to do. But I would say, as a team leader and as someone that's hiring a team and a founder of a nonprofit or business, our goal is to actually look for our gifts in the team, look for gifts in the team around us. So look for their gifts. So
Mm-hmm.
look at, okay, are they in a gifted area? Are they struggling in this? Is this totally not even? Do I need to, you know what I mean? And sometimes you do. You just have people in the area because that's just who's serving in that area right now. But always look to, how can I develop? Obviously, they either this ain't their gift, or they just not good at it, or I don't know. But how can we adjust this and make sure that they're operating in their area of gifting? Because when people are operating in their area of gifting, not only are they being compensated financially, but they're also being compensated spiritually, because
Yes.
they're doing something that they love. You're not pulling them, you're not dragging them. So you want to, as a team leader, try to lead by example first and foremost, and then also to guide. And okay, well, maybe let's try you in this area. Maybe, you've just been doing this for a long time, but maybe it's not your area of gifting or what you're really passionate about or something like that. And I would
Yeah.
say that would be the biggest thing that you can do as a team manager, is have people working in the fields that you feel like they're best in, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yes.
So
Definitely.
absolutely. And you have the opportunity to do that once your funds are different, because when your funds are in that middle stage and that low stage, sometimes you're just like, you know what? We're going to have to hire somebody on who learned, and we're going to have to grab an intern, and that's okay too.
And
That's
that's
okay.
okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay too. But as you're growing, and we actually, one thing that I love, and I learned this from serving on the board at Coburn Place, is to just always have they have a beautifully diverse board. And when I say diverse, I mean financially, culturally, spiritually, ethically or ethnically as well. But just have it age wise. We just added some more people onto our team that are in that 20 to 25 range. And so I'm about to be doing some TikToks, y'all. My
Uh,
first one was a
Are
big
you?
fail.
Oh, oh goodness.
The TikTok,
I'm
TikTok
excited
for
to see
nonprofit. But just having that diversity, having that, you want to have that youth in your business as well. You don't want your business to grow old. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Before I came into the nonprofit sector, that's kind of the age of the nonprofit sector, was like older male.
Yeah.
That was most nonprofit. Now it's completely changed. So, just
And
having
then
that diversity in your team.
yep. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was going to say one more thing. You know, what works for one business may not, you know, work for another. You know, people are so easy to judge. A lot of times when me and Tracy have a conversation, I'll be like, okay, this is a judgment free zone. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody is different, you know? So what
Yeah.
I do for my business may not work for you, but that's why it's important to get different feedback from other people. And like I said, really, you know, focusing on your craft and, you know, others that may work in your craft, but, and then, you know, adding your little twist of however you want to do it, or however it looks for you, you know? So, you know, that's
Yeah.
it.
And that's okay. Not comparing.
It's okay.
Not always,
Yeah.
not
It
comparing,
might not work.
comparing where you
Yeah.
were. The only thing you're trying to do is be in a better spot than where you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Growing a little bit, not comparing yourself to, there's an old saying that goes, don't compare somebody's 5-year success to your 1-year beginning. Because you're always be in a negative spot. You just started, they've been going for 5 years. So that's a huge point right there, just to know that everybody is different. It's going to grow differently. Things are going to, even if your business is exactly the same as someone else, it's going to still have its differences because it's a different team there. So that is a great point. I would say that's a good point to definitely end on. Another thing I wanted to mention that we didn't mention in the last video is that Kandis not only offers nonprofit services, but nonprofit services are also tied to, and this is huge when it comes to that team management and outsourcing and things like that. It's also tied to insurance. What did you say? What were the other
Health
services? Workers'
insurance,
comp,
retirement, any type of additional
retirement.
deductions you may have, or anything like that. Yeah, like health insurance and retirement primarily.
Those all tie
So,
into that category, and that's
depending on,
important.
like you were saying, where you are or what level your business is on, or what is required for your employees right now, what your employees need. We
Absolutely.
offer all types of additional products on top of payroll.
And that's awesome. That's time management and working smarter, not harder. So doing, like, if you have a one-stop shop thing, you could do, like, you know what, this will knock everything out in 3. Let me tell you guys about working smarter, not harder. A lot of you all seen that check-in with Keisha Thomas last week, which we'll be doing more check-ins and nonprofit hot seats as well this coming week. But a lot of you all seen that. And the thing about that was I actually needed to check in with Keisha anyway. So we needed to do a check-in, whether it be live or not. We was like, why don't we do it live? Now that's content as well. Other people are getting inspired as well. So you want to always be working smarter, like harder. Like, you know what? Why don't I just do all this stuff here? Why separate? Make sure that you're always checking and making sure you're doing things in the most smart, productive way, guys.
That was a pleasant surprise, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh, that was a pleasant. That was beautiful.
It was a surprise.
I saw that video also, so it was just beautiful.
It all worked out. It all worked out. I was like, oh wow, to be able to see it and see how she's coming along, especially seeing it from the beginning, is amazing. If you missed that video, guys, it's right before this one, so you can just scroll down and watch it right after this one. Thank you so much for staying with us again. Another almost hour. I'm gonna just start saying that. It'll be 30 minutes to an hour or something like that. Hey, Tequila, if you're just joining in, good morning. Good morning. Just go ahead after we're done and watch this from the beginning, because we had tons of great teamwork nuggets in here, guys. Actually, next week we won't be doing a hot spot since we have the holiday time coming up, or a hot seat since we have the holiday time coming up. But on Small Business Saturday, we have something very special coming up. Natalie Nelson Parker is going to be joining us with her hubby. And Robert's going to join us as well. And we're going to be talking about couples in business. How do you navigate that world, working and then also being together, things like that. So that's going to be exciting as well. We will see you guys next Saturday at 11 o'clock. Remember, from now until then, creating those win-wins. Thank you so much, Kandis, for coming on again.
Thank you. Thank you. Anytime.
Love you.
Anytime.
They said,
bye, everybody.
Presentation, great information. Awesome. Thank you. We appreciate that. We definitely appreciate you guys watching. We will see you guys, like I said, in the next live next Saturday. Create those win-wins. Remember to be intentional and always have that self-care.
And enjoy your holidays, everybody.
And enjoy your holidays, guys. Don't eat too much. I'm having a vegan Thanksgiving, so we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. We'll see you next Saturday.
All right.